Alina, we can start.
Alina, your mic is muted in case you are not aware.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem, everyone, and welcome to the Ramadan Summit. And welcome to the Ramadan Summit, which is the final treat of the Design Post-COVID Humanity Program based on the three virtues, Ta'aruf, Ta'awun, and Tarahum. Acquaintance, cooperation, and mercifulness. To end this summit with some inspiration, we will be having a speaker a day for this entire month to enlighten you with their TED-style talk. Ramadan is the month of forgiveness and mercy. So may our Rahman have his mercy on all of us, and may we utilize this month to purify our souls and to strengthen our Iman. Ameen. I'm Alina Zaman Khan, and I will be your moderator for today. And our guest speaker for today will be Ashan Perera. Ashan Perera is a young social entrepreneur, an advocate, and a strategist who has been driving various social impact initiatives over many years. Ashan Perera's journey has been an incessant one with his vision to serve humanity that has never gone unnoticed wherever it has taken him since the age of 8. With this vision, which clearly embedded in his mind, Ashan initiated his first social group in his backyard when he was a young boy of age 8. Since then, it gradually evolved to rise to its current status, conducting his work under the banner The Road to Rights International, with 28 chapters inducted in many countries globally that focuses on youth development in promoting human rights education and sustainable development. Ashan Perera holds 6 educational qualifications, mashallah, which consists of 3 diplomas, 1 postgraduate diploma, 1 Bachelor of Laws, and a Master of Business Administration. He has also received the following 3 prestigious awards: the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals Action Award 2018 in Germany, the International Human Rights Hero Award in 2012 in Belgium, and the JCI Top Outstanding Young Persons Award in Sri Lanka in 2014. Without a further ado, please welcome Ashan Perera. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. Hope you all can hear me. Thank you so much for the introduction, and Ramadan Kareem for everyone. And I thank the organizers and Design Post-COVID Humanity Program to invite me as a speaker to inspire others and then share my thoughts in achieving SDGs and youth development and leadership and all that. So with that note, I just like to share how I started my journey and specifically highlight the transformational leadership in achieving SDGs. So as she mentioned, I started a small group in I started a small group when I was age 8 in the backyard of my home with my brother and sister, and also 3 kids who were living next to my home. That is where I started getting into social impact initiatives and activities. From there, in 1998, until today, winning the SDG Action Award and working with many other organizations around the world, I have been going through different levels of platforms spaces in working towards creating a better and sustainable world for all of us. But what I noticed, even after designing the post 15 development agenda, the UN Sustainable Development Goals agenda, the one of the gaps that I noticed was leadership gap in the political, even corporate, and also the youth sector around the world. So it's been it's 2021 now. We just have 9 years to achieve SDGs. If you really want to make an impact and make SDGs a global reality, but that's a question how exactly we are going to do and what we have been doing in the past years. So what we noticed was we need young people, we need political leaders, we need policy makers who can walk the talk, who can transform ideas into a reality. So that is exactly the reason I wanted to touch the topic that I selected for the Ramadan Summit. Uh, Before I talk, I'll share some of the facts like if people have the right to food and shelter, why is 16,000 children starvation every day, one in every 5 seconds, even today? If people have the right to education, why are over billion adults just unable to read today? If slavery has truly been abolished, why are 27 people still slave today? You don't believe this is double of the amount in 1800. That's modern day slavery, and we are way ahead than the ancient times. Even if you look at this Martin Luther King, when Martin Luther King marched for racial equality, he was marching for the rights that has been guaranteed for almost 2 decades by United Nations. That is 1945 Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And even if you look at Nelson Mandela, when Nelson Mandela stood up for social justice in 90s, his country had already agreed on such discrimination for almost 40 years. He was fighting, he was still leading people. The fact was, we had policies, we had conventions, we had ideas, but it was not transformed into actions where all of us could actually experience the results of these policies. So, coming back to SDGs, that's exactly something we need to consciously look at as young people who are leading the world today and the future potential leaders who are going to make decisions in our respective industries as well as even in the political nature. So it's all about turning ideas into reality, transforming ink on the paper into a reality. So that is something we need to look at it. For that, we need the leaders who could think out of the box. We need transformational leaders, resilient leaders who would strategize the way forward just by walking the talk. So if you look at transformational leadership, it's not something, it's not rocket science, something you all of you all are familiar with. But just to be very specific on certain things, the transformational leadership would specifically focus on building individuals or building citizens and the communities, societies that they are in. So basically, the transformational leadership would make sure that they build the individuals and the social system so that we drive for the change that we have set the goal for. And more importantly, transformational leadership would make sure that the followers would become leaders. It would make sure that the teammates, the colleagues would become the leaders who would make sure that not just taking the idea forward, but then making sure that idea would become a reality and it is implemented. So I think in today's context, since as I mentioned, as you notice in the some of the facts that I have shared, if you really want to make sure that sustainable development goals are a global reality, we need to make sure that we are transformational leaders who build more leaders in taking the same message forward and making sure that these ideas, frameworks are truly visibly implemented. So, when it comes to transformational leadership, it has four specific aspects: idealized influence, intellectual stimulation, inspirational motivation, and individual consideration. So, one of the, if you will look at the post COVID humanity program, I was actually surprised while I was doing a research on transformational leadership after starting actually the COVID time. I was so surprised and was so happy as a young person. This program was truly designed to build transformational leaders. It has given the design thinking environment for young people to learn how they can transform ideas into action. So, big congratulations for the team for actually creating a space like that. Uh, so, if you look at idealized influence, that is where you have leaders who have set example for your colleagues or the followers or the teammates, and they make sure that they walk the talk and they set examples, and also they have a very clear focused target to achieve. So in transformational leadership, leaders are well focused, and then they set example for the followers or the team that they lead. And if you look at the second point, that is intellectual stimulation. I believe that this is one of the key aspects, and that is something we are even lacking as young people in most of the scenarios, and especially our politicians and the ones who are leading nations. So intellectual stimulation is basically a space, an environment where you challenge your own practices or beliefs and values to become more innovative enough to think out of the box and to do something new. And even if you look at your own industries, you might be the expert in your industry. But if you are to create a change within your industry, you really need other industries to influence your industry. It's same like sustainable development goals. If you look at a one goal that
Good. Tengoklah sehari tak keluar apa kerja.
if you if you look at sustainable development goals, all of these goals are interconnected. So if you are in an industry leading a change, you need to have an understanding about how the other industries are interconnected, what else happening beyond your purview. So you need to stimulate your brain and understanding little bit more about outside the space, and have that thinking to have that bigger picture, so that you drive your change within your industry. So this might be a little complicated, but this is exactly we need as leaders. I think programs like this, even with the digitalization process, what we do, joining different expert groups, discussions, and forum, we stimulate our brain to learn more about the things that you are not part of, and also pushing yourself to become more innovative to make things happen. So in other words, this is what you call as a leader, you set up your strategic pathway. This is where you do your strategic planning. You got that brain to do that. So that is the second point, intellectual stimulation. And the third one would be the inspirational motivation. That is something we all do. That's your team morale, and that's your inspiration. That's how you motivate your team. But one of the key things that we must be focusing here is the building leaders with that personality, charisma to be the leaders in their own respective sectors. I think today's uh, young people, the advocates, activists, they have a role beyond than how they have been doing their activism, how they have been doing their advocacy. So to do that, you as a young person, or if you are a leader, you need to make sure that your team or your followers, your colleagues have that personality and that charisma to position in the space where they inspire others as leaders. So inspirational motivation is one of the key aspects of uh, the transformational leaders. And if I take the last point, the fourth point, that individualized consideration. I think this is also one of the lacking part of some of the leaders in today's context. Um, in here, we focus each and every individual as individuals to make sure that they take your steps forward. They bring their innovative themselves in making things a reality. For that, you as a leader, you need to learn how to become a mentor or how to become a coach. When you become a coach or when you become a mentor for your team or your followers, they become the future potential young leaders. They would not just become the followers who would cheer you up, who are appreciating you, who are going to pump you up, but they are going to absorb your leadership style or the ideas for them to become leaders. So the simply to say, just to summarize, you need to become a mentor or a coach for your team members. So this is what you call transformational leadership, idealized influence, intellectual stimulation, inspirational motivation, and individualized consideration. If you just consciously think about in changing how you have been leading your change, how our, even if you have been thinking how our politician, how our local government leaders, even the corporate sector, if you look at how they have been leading their change, I think it's time to think, and it's time to change the way that we have been and they have been leading their way forward and the change. And just to summarize, you need to be leader who would make sure that your followers are going to be the leaders who are going to make things a reality. And if you look at the importance of transformational leadership, I think you have the essence of that. Like I mentioned, one, sustainable development goals are not just goals that are standing alone. These are interconnected. If you look at gender equality, and you could see the direct connection to the goal number 11, sustainable cities. So likewise, it's all interconnected. So when you are a transformational leader, you have the ability to think from the bird view aspect, think the bigger picture, make sure that you have that emotional intelligence to lead your team for a change. The reason I mention emotional intelligence, the characteristics of the transformational leaders are, you could see on my screen, they are resilient leaders. When there is a challenge, when there is a change, they can absorb and adapt to the nature. The very basic, simple example is the COVID. When COVID came to the world, some people got really panicked and they were like, "Wow, we had a 15 year of an agenda. How can we make this agenda a reality? We face a challenge that we have never faced before." From the other hand, some people were taking their steps back, rethinking, redesigning, like the program did. They strategize, okay, now this is how we face and we drive our agenda forward. This is how we develop our young leaders to become leaders in making these policies a reality. So one of the key aspects of transformational leadership is become resilient leaders and have the emotional intelligence to keep your ego in control and self-management, and inspire others to become leaders who can work with you to drive the change that you want to see. And this is one of the favorite quotes that I came across recently. It's from the famous business person Jack Ma. In the future, it's not knowledge driven, it is the wisdom driven, it is the experience driven. So, in the past, it is the manufacturing driven, and the future, it is the creativity driven. So I would say future is going to be creativity and innovation. It's not going to be information, just knowledge. Even the degrees, diplomas, whatever the qualifications we have, it's about how you are, how innovative you are, how creative you are. In 10 years from now, you would not know the jobs that you are getting into. You would not even know that some of the situations that you are going to get into, it's unpredictable. Maybe 80s, 60s, 50s, they predicted the world. They predicted that the mobile phone could have in your hand and you could, everything in your fingertips and all that. But future, it's not that easy to predict. It's unpredictable. So what we can do as young people, get yourself fit into the future. That is where the creativity and innovation, one of the key aspects in transformational leaders, as well as individuals, as global citizens in today's context. So if you look at the SDGs and transformational leadership, why transformational leadership is needed? Because SDGs are interconnected. If you really want to make SDGs a reality within our social, political, and cultural context, you need to have that broader vision and also the ability to work with people coming from cross-cultural sectors to making sure that these goals are not just words or fancy concept, a reality within your own community. So strategic thinking and strategic leadership. And the second point is you need to make sure that you manage your resources, but without compromising the values and principles. That is also one of the key aspects that I noticed in this program. They made sure that the values and the principles, the cultural harmony, it's all embedded in the journey of creating leaders who are making a change. So I think in transformational leadership, these two aspects are key, and I believe that that is the way we are also going to get connected with the people and citizens all across the world and think same in driving for commonly shared goal. So at the last, I wanted to share some of the faces so you would see some of the inspirational individuals who have taken a transformational leadership journey. If you look at Oprah, one of the famous media icon in the world, starting from a background powered in a poor background, poverty background, she became one of the biggest and most influential media icon in the world. And as I remember, she had three pillars of sort of change. That's team, and that's vision and values. And her team, her vision, her values were the three pillars of her successful journey. You could search about this individual. She's one of the famous individual as the 20th U.S. National Security Advisor, Mrs. Rice. She was also coming from a very humble background, purely uh, uh, took the journey forward with her mother's advice, and she didn't care about the gender or the title. She push forward the confidence and that courage. I think she had a great history to read. And the founder of Netflix, how he adapted his journey into a transformational world in today's context. Richard Branson, again the same story, how he adapt his businesses as a purpose-driven business, adapting and surviving in the world needs and the transformational world. Steve Jobs, starting from a computer and getting into movies to streaming to music to how he became so innovative to think about his unpredictable future in his times. So he's one of the transformational leaders, and he's one of my favorite. The very easy example, Nelson Mandela. When he became the president, the first black president in South Africa, he did not fight against anyone, or he did not even his political power to transform the nation. But very surprisingly, he used the Rugby World Cup during his time to change South Africa. That's unbelievable. The World Cup in 1994 made the rainbow nation in South Africa. That World Cup made the black and white to come together and celebrate as one people in South Africa. And if you read the story, you could even watch the movie Invictus. You could see the whole story, how he took each and every single step to make the game as a nation strategy to unite people. So, if you look at transformational leadership, this is what you call transformational leadership. You think the bigger picture, you use tools, and you drive your tools, drive your people, drive your abilities for visible and impactful results. Basically, walk the talk. It can be so unique than you could even imagine. If you look at Nelson Mandela's story, when he was going behind the World Cup, his own politician stood up against him. The ones who supported Nelson Mandela said, what are you doing, Mr. President? But he used that strategic pathway where until today, we take that example and how he united the nation. So one of the best example for the transformational leadership. So with that note, I just want to thank you for the opportunity. And leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. I believe that the COVID situation, unfortunately, it has badly impacted us. But then if you look at the positive side, I think we are connected more than ever before. And we share our thoughts and ideas, our cultures, and inspirational being in many parts of the world, like I'm talking here in Galle in Sri Lanka, and meeting the others coming from rest of from the other part of the world. So we have the ability to think like global citizens, get connected, and design our commonly shared vision to make sure that we create a better and sustainable world. As a young person, I believe that each and every young person wants to help their family, help their community, and help their country. They have that desire inside of them. They have that ability inside of them, each and every young person. We as educators, leaders, what we have to do is bring that desire out from each one of them and translate into action. If we do that, you would see a society where the planet and the people, all of us would breathe in the same space. And we would see a society, each one of us respect everyone's independence and drive towards a sustainable world. And we would not talk the same thing in 10 years from now, or 15 years now, and expecting another sustainable world. So with that note, thank you so much, the team, for giving me the opportunity, and those who have participated to the talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this motivational talk, and definitely we can implement this concept of transformational leadership by contemplating in Ramadan and thinking outside the box so we can make the change. Thank you for this truly incredible talk. And if anyone has any questions, you can raise the hand icon or you can type them in the chat box. Yasara says, thank you for speaking on this topic. You enlightened me on lots of aspects with practical examples. Thank you, Yasara. And we have a question from Tekang. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Yeah, you can ask your question now. You're on mute.
Hello, bro. That was a nice one. I feel inspired by what you've been doing so far. I want to applaud you for everything. It's a long way. I think you got a lot of stuff which you have achieved so far and a lot more on the horizon. Permit me to probably come with two questions on the table. You're founder of United Children Association, which I think is something very robust from my own point of view. Have you had a possibility to work with disabled kids alongside your organization, which you started with? And probably the second question is going to be based on the issue of ethics. Along the line, you working within your organization, have you probably tried to see how to use the concept of ethics in driving forward your views and equally the views with other youth organizations? And probably the last one, how do we probably try to say how to probably have a a balance between technology at the urban cities or in the cities as against what the low pace of technology at the level of the rural communities in order to achieve the SDGs at a more faster rate before we get to the destination. So those are the three questions. Thanks very much.
Okay. If you may kind of repeat the first question.
Okay, I want to ask you in your profile, you said you created the United Children Association, right? I want to ask if you had the possibility to work with disabled kids along this road.
Sorry?
I want to ask if you had the possibility to work with disabled kids since you started United Children Association back there in your country.
Yes.
Ashan, there Takang is, I think, asking maybe there's a audio problem. He's asking whether you had a chance to work with the kids with special needs.
Yeah.
In collaboration with UNICEF or other organizations for your cause.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I didn't get it. Sorry about it. Yes, exactly. So we are an organization who are working inclusively with many different organizations as well as the sectors. Working with people with disabilities are one of the key aspects. In fact, we launched a campaign called Accessible Sri Lanka to make sure that the people with disabilities and even the older ones and the little children have the access in our development in the country. So we have been working with many organizations related to that. And surprisingly, at that time only, we even noticed that there was a larger community within the country. So yes, we have been working on that and we have a separate team on that. Yeah, and the second question was how we work with values and ethics and how to balance. And also you mentioned about the technology and how we use technology as a tool or something like that.
Yeah, on how to probably balance technology at the level of the rural areas. A lot of rural communities don't have the technological might as compared to the cities and the urban centers, which are fast growing.
Absolutely. So I would answer the first aspect of the question, which is the values and ethics and how would you balance. So as you notice in the description, the bio, and we, I was pushing forward the Universal Declaration of Human Rights at the very beginning as a value system. So we
Okay.
believe that as an organization, if we do not have values, basically our responsibilities, we cannot talk about sustainable development goals. We cannot talk about any one of the other development aspects. So when we approach corporate sector or when we approach government sector and even work with young people, the key thing that we highlight is you have to get your responsibilities in place, values and the ethics in place if you really, really want to make a SDGs or peace a reality. Sometimes I have come across certain situation, you see more conflicts within the uh, communities who are in building peace. Sometimes you see the conflict between the organization who are working towards peace. So, so we need to make sure that we become conscious leaders. If you look at gender equality or respect one another, if you are not conscious enough, you would not see the change. If you take the environment, you can talk about sustainability and all that, but if you are not become conscious enough not to buy plastics or conscious enough to make sure that at least your home environment has a sort of a way that you categorize your plastic and bottles and all that, you know, that is how you if you do not have that, you would not see the change. So values are the values and responsibilities are our key. If you ask the balance, what we do is we make sure that we make the values and ethics as a compulsory component of making the development agenda a reality. So that's how we actually drive it. And if you look at the technology, uh, also one of the good questions and one of the challenging situation when we are working with the grassroots sector. um, I think the things, if you look at Sri Lanka, the Sri Lanka is kind of way better than how it was 10 years time. When I was handling programs years back, it was very hard that hard for us to get young people connected with technology. Even before post 15 development agenda, we were working on this campaign called My World Global Survey. The My World Global Survey contributed in drafting sustainable development goals. So when we go to some of the grassroots communities, they did not have a way to connect it with United Nations or what. So, but then we did certain activities like that. We had projects like we set up computer labs in schools, and we had uh, uh, we had a 30-year war in Sri Lanka as well, different ethnic groups and things like that. What we did was on a Friday, the young people from Tamil speaking community logging into Skype and speaking to the young kids from a Sinhalese speaking community. And they share their ideas and they share their thoughts. At least they hear the language they speak. I mean, we had a moment where we had situations like that. But in today's context, uh, if you even search on Google, Sri Lankan we have the mobile phones more than the population in Sri Lanka. It's actually double of the population in the country. So everyone has bit of an access to internet and the digital device. But then the problem is how literate we are in using technology is a question. Cyberbullying and all of that are bit high in the country. So now we are in a journey where we use technology as a tool to make a change, but also making sure that technology would not spoil or drive young people towards a wrong direction. So something like that. So
Thank you. Thank you. Good work.
thanks.
Bayan says, Tekin, I love how active and engaged you are every day of the Ramadan Summit. Thank you, Tekin. And Professor Evren says, we have a Man City fan. Mr. Ashan, I have a question for you. So you just mentioned about the role of technology and communicating people, connecting people. So what do you feel is the role of technology in implementing this concept of transformational leadership?
Absolutely. So I think when it comes to the transformational leadership, even if you look at the aspects of it, one of the aspects was stimulate your brain and having more understanding about what is happening around the world. I think even today, we are connected like this because of technology. I think technology has absolutely connected the world better than before. And because of that, technology has that greater power in sharing information and getting young people connected regardless of where you are and who you are. I think access to information and getting connected with others and share the exposure and also getting to know the spaces beyond you is the greatest contribution to the transformational leadership. Transformational leadership is more like having more and more exposure. I think, as I mentioned before, the post-COVID humanity, design post-COVID humanity program actually created transform, build the transformational leaders who would become the future potential leaders who are going to lead their industries. How that happened? Because of technology. I think that's a very simple example how tech is going to be useful in transformational leadership concept.
Thank you. Definitely, I agree with you. Ramadan Summit is a platform where it's connecting people and it's giving people the exposure to build on this transformational leadership. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay, I have another question for you. You stated that we need to create a space where we challenge our own practices or beliefs. Could you please provide some examples of how we can go about with this?
Yes. So sometimes if you are in a space where you have been driving for a change or working with young people in building themselves as leaders, uh, when you do not see the change happen, you need to challenge how you have been believing or practicing certain things. Sometimes when you are in a closed space or practicing same thing over and over again, expecting another outcome, you must challenge. So that's exactly what I meant specifically. Even if you look at the most of the governments in the world, what's happening is, even in Sri Lanka or many parts of the world, we are talking the same thing over and over again, but expecting another outcome. How can we change that? You need to challenge your own practices. You need to challenge the way you have been believing, how you have been leading. So if you do not challenge that, you would not become innovative. You would not become uh, uh, unique enough or become leaders who would think out of the box to bring a change. So that's exactly the meaning of challenging your own beliefs or the practices and the behaviors in becoming a transformational leader. In summarized word, you become a resilient leader. So
Okay, thank you so much. We have another question from Tekang. Tekang, yes, you may ask your question now.
Oh, sorry for coming again. First of all, I want to probably encourage all my brothers and sisters who are part and parcel of this summit. Please take the courage to speak. Start writing. You're giving a lot of stress to the host, Alina, and the others. Take the time, meet the people who speak, and try to exchange your views with them. It's very important. So I'm sorry for stealing the show, and probably every day I have to talk right up to the end of the summit, probably that. This is my question. I got a lot of friends who are youth leaders in communities from whatever projects they find themselves. But this is the issue I've discovered with a lot of them. They are suffering from the notion of the I factor, the I, the me, not the we, not the us. So how do young people come out from this kind of bondage? Because we can't achieve the SDGs as young people. Meanwhile, a good number of our folks are it's my organization. I did this, I did that, not we. How do we go from here?
Yes, I think that's a very good question. So as SDGs are interconnected, a collective agenda, I think it is not possible if you have an understanding about it is my agenda or it is like my journey. Yes, you need to be very conscious as an individual, but you need to have a commonly shared vision or a goal if you really want to make a change. But sadly, the world is very competitive. The world is sometimes our educational systems, our jobs, and some of the economy that has influenced us to actually become very competitive, sometimes for no reason. If you really think about, if you really think beyond, you would really see. I don't know how to. I don't know whether I'm taking too much time. I would give you an example. I believe that each and every person in this world here to serve one another. If you look at a doctor, what he is doing, he's actually making sure someone else is very healthy. And if you look at an accountant, you know, even an accountant is not making his account, others' accounts, right? If you look at a driver, what is he, bus driver, what is he doing? Wake up in the early in the morning, making sure the kids are on time in the school. You know, the people are on time at the workplace. Each and every single person, you and me, even doing now what we are doing today, we are doing something for someone else. But the problem is, we have not understood that we are here serving someone else. Since we have not understood that we are in a competition, where, oh, I want to achieve that, I want to be that person and all that, while we are serving other people. If we as young people just understand each and every single step we are doing today in the world, in our communities, are actually doing something for someone else, you could easily think we are just one people. I think uh, in my organization, from backyard to the world, it grew up because our young people were thinking as one. Today we are also doing all of this very successfully. We have a commonly shared goal. I think you need to emphasize the fact that it's time to think beyond your individual objectives, or you need to think beyond and believe the fact that we are one people as global citizens. So, and then you could also share the concept that I shared. So, anyways, so that's very important.
Okay, thank you so much, Tian. Anyone else? Or can we wrap this up now? Ali Khalili says, thanks a lot, brother Ashan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Ashan Perera, thank you so much for this incredible motivational talk. And based on the concept of transformational leadership, I believe that we can easily implement this in Ramadan. And because Ramadan is, it's supposed to inspire us, so we contemplate on ourselves and we thrive to walk on this journey of change. So let's all ponder over this thought And please continue on joining our Ramadan talks, and we will catch you again on Saturday at 2 p.m. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. And
Thank you, everyone.